Call the April 14th meeting of the Jackson City School Board of Education to order. Roll call, please.
McDonald.
Present.
Moore.
Yes.
Harless.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
All are present.
The Pledge of Allegiance. It's over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item is the approval of agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved. I'll
Second.
second.
Smith.
Yes.
Harless.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item is the approval of minutes. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Smith.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Harless.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Howard?
Okay, it is recommended that the consent agenda be approved as follows. First of all, for those of you viewing at home, if you go to the Jackson City School District website and you want to follow along with the agenda, you should be able to click on Board Docs at the top of the page and pull up the agenda if you'd like to be able to do that. It is recommended that the board approve item A, the suspension of public participation at regular board meetings temporarily until the governor's orders are lifted and the public is permitted to attend board meetings again. Item B is a recommendation to abolish the position of a preschool itinerant at the conclusion of this school year. Item C is a recommendation to approve a list of classified continuing contracts, and those individuals are listed here on the agenda. Item D is a recommendation to approve classified 2-year contracts for 3 individuals. Item E, recommendation to employ exempt employees, and all of those are 3-year contracts. Glenna Beerup, Riley McLaughlin, Marcia Taylor, Jennifer Spires for the positions as noted. Item F is a recommendation to employ a whole list, page and a half, of 047 classified employees for the 2021 school year. Item G is a recommendation to employ a list of substitute teachers for the 2021 school year. Item H is a recommendation to employ a list of secondary classified positions. These are primarily our bus drivers that hold a secondary position. Item I is a recommendation to employ a list of classified subs for the 2021 school year. And there's a page and a half of those individuals. Item J is a recommendation to approve Walt Miller as the wrestling coach effective November 15th. That's an oversight on my part. Walt has already completed that, and I inadvertently left him off of one of our agendas previously. He's already performed the duties, and in order to be paid, we need to approve that. So, item K is a recommendation to approve a resolution that will allow us to use our digital format to take the place of the days that we're missing for regular instruction. Item L is a recommendation to approve a contract with Meta Solutions. It's something that we do every year. You probably remember that. Item M is a recommendation to authorize administrative staff to develop program budgets for the programs listed. Again, there's about 2/3 of a page of those programs. Item N is a recommendation to approve the Jackson Alumni Association as a support group for this current school year. Item O is a recommendation to approve Teacher Appreciation Week as the week of May 4th through the 8th. Item P is a recommendation to allow the treasurer to create a PayPal account with some restrictions to be used for parents to make necessary payments as needed during this pandemic. Item Q is a recommendation to approve a contract with the South Central Ohio ESC for psychology services. I believe there are 3 psychologists. Item R is a recommendation to approve another contract with South Central Ohio ESC for speech-language pathology services. Item S, recommendation to approve another contract with South Central Ohio ESC for OT services. Item T is a recommendation to approve a contract with the South Central Ohio ESC for audiology and vision services for our students. And I believe, Mr. McDonald, that concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, Mr. Howard. Does anyone have any items that need removed for separate consideration? I'd like to remove under the substitute teachers, I think that's item G. I'd like to remove Teresa Harrison for separate consideration.
I think you should point out that that's because she is your sister.
She is my sister. Yes, that's the reason. Yes. Need a motion to consider item G, the
So moved.
second.
Smith,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Harless,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
McDonald.
Abstain. Now I need a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Morris,
Yes.
Harless,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes. Now we'll move on to new business. If we have any new business, there's none. And we'll move on to the financial report. Mrs. Strauser.
Item 8 is to approve the treasurer's report as presented for the period ending March 31st, 2020.
Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Harless,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Item B is to update the certificate of estimated resources to the new appropriations.
Could I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
I'll second.
Morris,
Yes.
Harless,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
And item C is the permanent appropriations for 2020.
And I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Smith,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Harless,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
And that concludes the report.
Okay.
Mr. President.
All right, information, discussion items. Mr. Howard?
Just a quick update on the school closure. So I'm getting a lot of questions, particularly about senior activities, prom and graduation and so forth. But as you know, the governor initially closed the schools on March 16th. Came back then and extended it until May 1st at least, and we still don't know what's going to happen after May 1st. But what we have done here in the last week or so, myself and Mr. Haynes have had a virtual meeting with our senior class officers, as well as a separate meeting with our senior valedictorians, to talk to them and get some input from them as to what they would like to see happen in the event that we are not permitted to come back to school. We ended up sending a survey out to our seniors, which is a class of 180 this year. I think we've gotten about 135 responses back from that. And some of the things that we discussed were having a virtual graduation, which I don't think most of the students really want necessarily for that to be the only thing that they get. But we talked about the possibility of delaying the graduation until June or July, maybe later in July, but even that, who knows whether we'll still be allowed to do that. If you listen to the governor today, I think today actually made it sound even worse as far as when people are going to be able to have these large gatherings. They talked about that it's going to be a long time before we get back to the place that we were at prior to this happening. So with the survey, we asked our students that if we delayed the graduation from May 22nd until June or July, how many of you would come back for the graduation? Only about 10% of the students indicated that they wouldn't be able to or would choose not to come back. But again, we still have about 45 students that have not responded to that yet. I think that, and a lot of the students did indicate that they thought it might be okay to go ahead and have a virtual graduation on the 22nd. In the event that we're never able to come back in June or July and have a graduation, then at least they would have had something. I assured them that if we did choose to, if they did choose and we chose to go ahead and have a virtual graduation, that we would still do everything within our power to be able to have a normal graduation for them. I think some of them were concerned that if they did that, if we had a virtual graduation, then either we wouldn't feel as compelled to try to have a graduation because you've already had it, or there's some concern that even amongst the seniors that, you know, how compelled are they going to feel to come back if they've already had a virtual graduation. But I think everyone agrees that no one knows what's going to happen and if we're even going to be able to come back. I don't know at what point the governor's going to say that we can have 3,500 people in Alumni Stadium. So I think there will be a lot of things that will happen prior to that being able to happen. So I think that that's kind of the direction that we're probably leaning in at this point if we don't get back in school. And I mean, I guess there's still a slight glimmer of hope that maybe we will be back in after May 1st. And if that happens, as far as prom goes, we would be able to have a prom on the weekend of May 8th or May 15th. I don't think that that's very likely. I personally don't think that we'll be back in school, but I'm not the governor, so we're all just kind of at the mercy of what's going to happen here within the next few weeks.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When we say virtual graduation, can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, what we thought about doing is I've talked to our tech people, and we could have our valedictorians film themselves in cap and gown giving their speech. It could be sent in to our tech people. We could go ahead and stage a graduation, you know, even up on the field with the podium or whatever. And I could, as I normally do, come up and introduce the speaker, and we could cut to the video of the student reading their valedictorian speech. Then we could, once all the valedictorians have given their speeches, as we read the student's name, we would have students submit pictures, a picture of them in cap and gown and maybe some other senior picture or whatever picture they'd like to use. And as myself or Mr. Haynes reads off the name, we could show the picture displayed on the screen. It is what it is. I mean, it's not something that anybody wants to have to call that a graduation, but it's something.
Right.
Just a couple of things about our instruction. I'm really, really proud of our teachers and our students and the way that the instruction's going. I think that it's gone very well. I mean, the feedback that I've got has been 99% positive. Everyone seems to think that the teachers are going above and beyond, reaching out to students and parents and trying to help them if they're having any issues. I've seen all kinds of some of the neatest things. I would like to be able to show you just one video that I saw today. This is a group of our 5th grade teachers out at Northview and some of the things that they're doing with their students.
The thing is, an object is in rest until it's hit by a new medium. We are going to be doing a force of mass experiment. Now, woohoo! Ready? Yeah!
What's your first run number?
24. Just like
Okay.
11 and a half. What the hell? Okay, what's in here?
Yeah, 12 meters. 12 meters, and she done that in 9 seconds. Now run back. She done that in 5 seconds. Good job.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
my gosh, it worked! Did you get it?
yeah!
And it ended up in the glass, Miss Lefevre.
And there's been so many of these kind of videos that I've seen where our students are working, where our teachers are working with our students. Can't possibly play them all, so I just picked this one out because I saw it fresh today. But there's just so much creativity that's going on out there that I couldn't be more proud of our teachers and our students at this particular time. I think it's one thing it's important to note is that we've got our summer break coming up, and it's really important that we continue to teach as best we can during the time that we're out of school, because that could cause our students to end up being out of school for 5 or 6 months. And the standards, the state standards are the same. I mean, next year, a third grade student's going to be expected to be able to do third grade work. So if we've got a second grader that's going to go on to third grade next year, we're not doing that student any favors by not continuing to cover the material and the content. So I think it's important that you know that we understand that as parents. I mean, I've seen some of the funny sayings and the memes. I saw one yesterday that said, when is the class, when is it going to be announced who my child's teacher is next year? I hope it's not me again. And
I saw that.
those kind of things. So I know that parents are working extremely hard, and particularly we still have a lot of parents that are working themselves, and it's a burden on those people. But it's very important that we stay on top of their academics, because particularly at the elementary level, the research indicates that if a child gets behind in the primary level, the first or second grade, that it's really tough for those kids to be able to recover. And one of the things that I'm really proud about is that every year we have students from Jackson High School that go off to attend Ivy League schools and some of the most prestigious universities in the country. And part of the reason that we're able to do that is because of our expectations and the work of our elementary people. And we don't want to get behind on that right now. So I know that at times maybe the work seems tough. I think it's important that you establish some kind of a routine with your child so that the child knows that I'm going to be working from this time to this time, and that routine can go a long ways towards you having to sit and fight with your kid every day. So again, we understand the dilemma that it puts people in, but we can't base the amount of work that we send home on the few people that are still busy and can't be there to spend as much time with their child, because we have an obligation to all of our students. Let me just say also about particularly our classified staff. As most of you know, we are continuing to provide meal service for our students, and I think that we're doing about, on average, between 450 to 500 meals per day. It varies depending on the weather and all kind of things. And I want to shout out to Belicios and some of the other people in the community and businesses that have stepped up and helped to provide for families during this time of need. We have about 50% of our students that are on free and reduced lunch, and those people count on those meals from the school every day. And we're providing breakfast, a lunch, well, it's a lunch and a breakfast for the next day, and a snack every day. So our cooks are continuing to come in to work to do that. We're using our bus drivers to help transport the meals out, and our aides to help hand out the meals to individuals. So that's going really, really well at this particular time, and we hope to be able to continue to do this for as long as we're out of school. Obviously, that could change depending upon, if the situation gets worse and our workforce is impacted by it. But so far, our people it's something that they really want to do. And, it's not something that I feel like that we're making our people do. They're excited about coming in and doing it. Most of you board members, if not all of you, I think all of you have, at one time or another, have been out to some of the sites and have witnessed our people as they're getting the food out to people. And I think that you would agree that our people, it's something that they really want to be able to continue to do, and it's important that we're able to do that.
May I interject something there?
Sure.
The day that we were at Northview, I was most impressed with a bus driver who brought meals out there in the bus, and a couple of the other aides that were with her. But every one of the students that she recognized, hello, she called them by name, I love you and I miss you, I can't wait till we get back to school. You be careful and do what mom tells you and study hard. I mean, it was just a conversation between her and each of those children. That was very impressive to me. That tells me that she really cares about her kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. No, that's fine. When the governor first closed the schools down, everything was still open except schools. And then all of a sudden, the next week, he started closing down more and more and more and more things, and we had to determine what was essential. Obviously, our cooks are essential if we're going to provide meals for our students. So at that point, a lot of our people were asked to work from home, and some are continuing to do that. We have started to bring some people back in because the definition of essential for the school district changes from time to time. If the grass starts getting knee-high, now all of a sudden your maintenance people are essential to be able to come in and mow the grass. So some of our people are not working every day on site, but they're working when it's essential that they come to work on site. I think that's really all I have, except that, let me say this, that, at the beginning of the meeting, the first item, the consent agenda, was that we went ahead and suspended our public participation policy, because obviously we have no public here. And just let me say that this board's had a long-standing history of allowing public participation. So if there is something from any of our viewers that you would like to have addressed at a future meeting, if we're not permitted to be able to host a meeting where the public is able to attend, if you would just email me, and then I will do my best, if it's something that's appropriate for me to be able to answer in a public meeting, I will do my best to answer that at the next meeting, if this hasn't been lifted and the public's still not permitted to attend. Any questions for me?
I had a couple of things. You're talking about graduation before. I know this quarantine came late enough in the year that a lot of the seniors, maybe most of the seniors, were about wrapped up. What about those seniors that were struggling to get requirements done towards the end? How are we addressing that with graduation requirements? Is the state giving us a lot of guidance on how we're finishing that up?
The state has actually pretty much given the building principal the authority on that. And our principal and counselors are currently looking through all of our senior students to see where they're all at. And the principal will determine whether a student was on track to be able to graduate or not. I see that being a bigger issue for vocational students, and
Sure.
particularly their certifications, because they have to put in so many hours, and I mean, it's pretty hard to teach a kid how to weld online, so and that's just one example. It's possible that vocational students would be able to earn their high school diploma and graduate, but maybe not get their credential. And I've talked to Mr. Nash down at Buckeye Hills, and assuming that they're allowed to come back at some point in time, I know he's going to do the best that he can to try to have people, his teachers there, to be able to let those kids get those hours in so that they can earn that credential, which is a large reason of why they chose to go there in the first place.
The other thing was, I've had some parents reach out to me with questions regarding their children may have been doing very well in some classes before this all happened, and now they may be getting 2, sometimes 3 letter grades less in those same classes now with less instruction, and they had some concerns about how we're dealing with that.
The situation that have been brought to my attention, I've talked with the building principals, and they have talked to the teachers. And in fact, on a couple of occasions, I've actually looked at the grades of some of those students. And what I have found, and this is not necessarily everybody, but in most cases what I've found, the reason that those particular students' grades were so low, they haven't turned the work in. So it's pretty hard to give students credit if you're not going to at least turn the work in. And for example, I mean, if you've got 5 grades in a class and you don't turn 2 grades in, 2 assignments in, the best you can have is a 60%. So I think that that's a lot of the issue, and I would just encourage the parents that if you're having that situation, to be able to just reach out to the teacher and see what you can do, or check progress book all the time, because if you look on progress book, you can see if your child has not turned in an assignment.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I have something that's kind of off the topic of what we have, but every year in May, we do a field trip for our Jackson and Benton County second graders. Well, this year, no face-to-face, obviously, but I'm real proud of our teachers and some of the staff in all the districts here, that Oak Hill, Wellston, and Benton County. We're going to do a virtual Ag Day. So we have people doing actual tours on their farms, different presentations, hands-on things, and our teachers have all jumped on board. They got me t-shirt orders so we could give the kids t-shirts still, and we've even added virtual to it. It's going to be a lot different, but May 1 it will go live on a YouTube account, and our teachers will be able to also use that as curriculum and some other things during the school year. It's gonna be different, but I think, you know, they'll have some hands-on activities, some recipes that they can make homemade butter and s'mores and snacks, healthy snacks. So I just wanted to commend all the teachers for getting back with us, working with the Farm Bureau to have this virtual Ag Day for the kids.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any?
I just have a comment. I'd just like everyone listening and everyone here to keep the loved ones and family members of the young man in Oak Hill that lost his life last week. Keep him in your prayers and your heart. What a tragic situation.
Anyone else have anything?
I think we need to thank our IT staff here, our guys,
They did
for
great job.
Yeah, those
doing
guys
this
are,
and streaming it for us.
I just don't like to
Guys.
brag on them while some of them are sitting here. but-
Yeah.
Actually, Riley got a new contract tonight, so.
All right. That's right.
Yeah, we
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
everything you
You're
do.
earning it, right,
Yeah,
Riley?
thank you.
You're earning it, right?
You know, one of the things that, I think we sent out about 1,800 Chromebooks with our students. So, you know, we were pretty much one-to-one already. Our high school students were already taking Chromebooks home with them on a daily basis, and we're used to doing a lot of things online. Our elementary was halfway there, our middle school was about halfway there. Our elementary students would go from room to room and end up getting a different Chromebook in each room. But we kind of knew that this was coming. I feel like that we got out ahead of it as much as we could. We did some surveys prior to the governor ordering schools closed. And so we kind of knew how many of our students in the district had internet, how many of our students, because a lot of people that have the internet didn't want to be responsible for a Chromebook. You know, like my kid can use my computer at home. Some people that had internet wanted their child to have a Chromebook because they didn't want the child, or if you got 2 or 3 kids, trying to monopolize the computer. But I was really kind of surprised to find that it appears that about 90% of our students have internet. Now, what we're finding, one obstacle that we're dealing with is that in a lot of cases, or at least some cases, the internet, while they may have it, it's not real reliable. It goes off and on, and so if a teacher's trying to have a class at a certain time, the kid might be able to get logged on today, might not be able to get logged on tomorrow. It might kick out right in the middle of it, but all in all, about 90% of our students had internet.
And I think it would be fair to thank Mr. Howard for being proactive and being ahead of everything from day one. I know you take a lot of heat for some things and decisions, but I am very proud of how we have been ahead of the game and how we are continually trying to do better and make sure our kids are fed. And I thank you for the time you put into that.
I second that.
Well, I always say that, and I believe this wholeheartedly, you know, that you're only as good as the people that are around you, and we've got great administrators, we've got great teachers, we've got a lot of people that are smarter than I am, so I rely heavily on those people, and they're all very dependable, and they've all done a great job. So it's not, I appreciate the comment, but throw not Phil Howard, it's my team, our team.
Our team.
All right, we'll go on to closing items. Do we have any closing items from any board members? You may have already
We're done.
said what you have to say there.
Everybody stay healthy.
Yes, you too, Alice.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard, do you have anything else?
I don't.
All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.